Hello, YouTube. Brandy Churchwell here. I want to say a quick hello to the 13th jurors, to the wine moms, to all of my subscribers and supporters from YouTube and Twitter and social media in general. I appreciate y'all being here and I appreciate you watching. Now, this one is going to be a tough video to get through. Today was a tough day to get through. As a mom, this one hit me, and I know that I talked to a lot of y'all today on different social media platforms, and I think a lot of y'all felt the same way I did. This one was tough. So we are going to get through it together, but forgive me if my eyes get glassy or my voice begins to get shaky, because this one is a little bit close to home. So all right, the blue that you'll see throughout these videos, if you have followed this case from the beginning, when he first went missing in 2020, his neighborhood did, in his community did, everything was blue for Gannon. So they changed their light bulbs, you know, on their front porches. Even some of the local restaurants did. People wore blue ribbons. Everything was blue for Gannon. And even a lot of his family showed up to the courthouse today in blue. So all of the videos for the next 8 weeks, or however long this trial ends up lasting, will have a blue theme. And the reason for that, I want you to know, is I want to be able to honor Gannon and do the blue for Gannon. So the first part of the day began with wrapping up jury selection. Once they were sworn in, the defense actually asked for a bench trial. The judge denied it, but basically the bench trial would have dismissed the jury and would have put the decision making solely in the judge's hands on whether or not there was guilt. But the judge denied the motion. He had faith in the jury to come up with this decision. So that was denied, and after lunch, the opening statements for the state began. Okay, so the camera footage in the courtroom is not great. I did a screen grab so y'all can kind of get an idea of how it's set up. Letecia is in the far right corner, but you can't really see her or see her reactions to anything. The prosecution begins opening statements by explaining the question of sanity to the jury. Basically, was Letecia able to determine right from wrong at the time of the murders? Now, basically, everything after this was really difficult. So the prosecutor begins by describing Gannon Jacob Stauch as an 11-year-old boy who came into the world premature, weighing in at only 1 pound 6 ounces. When he says this, you can see Gannon's mom gets up and leaves the courtroom, and she's followed by some family members. I think between the DA talking about Gannon and his picture at that point was put up on the screen, I think it probably became a little bit too much for her. The DA continues that on January 25th, Gannon's dad, who is in the National Guard, left for Oklahoma to do some training, and Gannon was left with Letecia. The next day, on January 26th, Gannon suffered some burns. Letecia actually did a recording on her phone when this happened, and they played the video. You can't really see anything in the video, but you can hear the audio, and you can hear Gannon's voice. You can hear him crying. Letecia is talking to Gannon about the burns, and she's saying that because of that, they are going to have to sell some things to figure it out, maybe the sofa or figure out whatever else, so that the lady doesn't get mad and kick them out of the house. And as she's saying this, you can hear Gannon crying, and he says that as he's crying, he says he's just worried about his burns, and she shushes him. So the DA, after the video, the DA tells the jury that Letecia killed Gannon and put his body in a suitcase to hide it. Told numerous stories to manipulate the investigation, and then discarded him off of a bridge like garbage. And then DA Allen said that Gannon's life ended in his bedroom, where he suffered 18 stab wounds and then was shot. This is my 9th time recording this part. Okay. The DA tells the jury that among the 18 stab wounds were some on Gannon's hands and arms, meaning they were defensive wounds. He then took a blow to the head that cracked his skull, and she then fired a 9mm handgun at him. 2 of the bullets went through the pillow by his head, and 1 entered into his head through his jaw, got lodged in, and they removed it during the autopsy. And then the DA describes the location of the blood in Gannon's bedroom. He said that that is when Letecia decided to hide what she had done. So she shoved Gannon and his blankets into a storage unit in the home. It did leave traces of blood in the area. She cleaned Gannon's room, scrubbing the walls and the carpets. They actually even found the scrub brushes in the dishwasher later with carpet fibers and Gannon's blood. In the bedroom, there were no obvious signs of anything crazy happening when police got there because she had cleaned it. Her clothes were never found, but there were shoes that had blood on them that were found in the house that were drying, and also the shell casings from the 9mm. Those were never found, and neither was the weapon that was used for the 18 stab wounds. Okay. Eyes are swollen, but we're getting through it. All right. So GPS location data led the investigators to a board with Gannon's blood on it. They said that the board actually came from the garage of the home. 48 days later, 1,300 miles away, Gannon's body was actually found in the suitcase, along with the blankets that he had been wrapped up in. Now, the DA tells the jury that Letecia had very deliberate movements during this time. He said that she put the suitcase in the back of a rented van, went to Florida, rented a hotel room, and then went to a bridge that was not too far from the hotel room. The bridge is over a river that actually feeds into the Gulf of Mexico. And that is where she dumped the suitcase over the bridge right there. Now, the DA then points out that Letecia was doing different things to try to throw off the investigation. So she had various different stories. Now, one of the stories was that Gannon had gone to a friend's house and never come back. One of the stories was that she was raped by a man named Eduardo, and that Gannon was kidnapped. One story was the exact same as that, except for the guy's name was Quincy Brown. One story was that they went to, Gannon wanted to go look for a bike. He went and he test drove it. He crashed. He suffered a head injury, and Quincy took him, and she just never saw him again. He never returned. One story said that it was linked to the cartel. And then one story even, she tried to insinuate that Gannon's mom actually had something to do with his disappearance. Now, the DA says that these deliberate actions show that she was trying to hide what she had done so that that shows them that it wasn't insanity. He says the deliberate actions mean that she knew what she was doing. He tells the jury that they will hear opinions over the coming weeks about kind of her mental state of where she was at the time, including witness statements from her husband, Gannon's dad, her brother, and even her own daughter. He ends these statements by telling the jury that he has the burden of proof as the state. He said that it is up to the state to prove guilt, but he says that the evidence will take care of all of that. He then tells them that Letecia is actually the one who called 911 to report Gannon missing, and they play a very small portion of the 911 call. The operator asked in the 911 call who the last person was to see Gannon, and she said, I guess me. And basically right after that, he ends his opening statements. So now defense attorney Will Cook gets up for opening statements. He begins by introducing himself to the jury. He acknowledges that this is a very tough case. He said that as a defense attorney, it's hard for him to come in when people have preconceived notions about what they think about Letecia or this case. He brings up the insanity claim. He said that some people will say that's just BS. He said that he's been working on this case for 3 years. He, again, acknowledges it's tough. He tells the jury that the photos that were introduced during the state's opening were mild compared to what they will see during the remaining of the trial. He said there will be pictures of like the autopsy and when Gannon is being moved out of the suitcase and stuff like that. So he said it's all been rated G or PG up to this point. It will get much worse. He said that he gets it. He said what happened to Gannon is beyond description and the facts are awful. You can tell that he's obviously worried about the jury coming in with preconceived notions about what's going on. So he kind of does this theatrical, you know what, never mind. This case is, it's a lost cause. It's, no point in even going on. And he walks towards the back of the door or the back of the courtroom by the door as he's saying this. He said it's just a lost cause. So he turns around when he gets to the door and he walks back and says he can't quit this case because that wouldn't be fair. He tells the jury that they can't judge this case before all of the evidence comes in and before they see all the evidence because of the courts. And, that's the way the process works. The Constitution, everything is, it doesn't matter how they feel about Letecia. She still has rights through the Constitution. So he said this is a court of law, not the media or Facebook. So just like his little demonstration, he's saying you can't just walk out before the evidence saying it's a lost cause. You can't just make up your mind before the evidence saying it's a lost cause. As a jury or as a juror, they need to try to put any preconceived notions or bias aside and listen to the evidence and make their decision. Now, he says that he acknowledged that, some people may hate him or think badly about him for even representing her, but he just wants their side to be heard. He said that if they don't prejudge the case and they are fair and impartial and still say guilty, then he will accept that. So next, Cook tells the jury that this will all come down to the question of sanity. He said that the evidence, like the recorded statements and 911 call and stuff like that, will all be part of what helps them decide that. But he said that the state isn't required to provide a motive. He said that that matters because a motive is evidence. And if there's no motive, then that means a lack of evidence. He said that the photo that I have right here is one of Letecia and Gannon and his sister. This was taken the day before the murders. So, or before the murder. So, he said that in the, picture, it seems like smiling, happy, everything's fine. And of course, she took his life the very next day. He said that, the reason for this, is she had been long time, from the time she was a toddler, suffering from the trauma of abuse. It began when she was a toddler. He said that she suffered physical beatings, emotional abuse, which turned into also sexual abuse from the time she was 3 or 4 until when she turned 5 or 6. She started being molested regularly, and that went on to her teens. He said that her mother wasn't really a mother. She came in and out of Letecia's life. She had a long line of boyfriends and stepfathers who are responsible for all of this abuse. Cook said that she also watched her mother being physically abused, and he said that Letecia actually used to sleep in the car in the driveway to try to get away from these men and their abuse. He said that with her mom being gone all the time, though, that she was left in the care of these men, giving them the opportunity to do these things to her. Now, he said that he tells the jury that he realizes that a lot of people had bad childhoods and went on to be fine, but there are some who don't. And he said that Letecia, because of her abuse, suffers from fragmentation of personality. This is kind of a way of survival. You have different parts of your personality. You have one part that is placating your abuser, and you have one part that is fearing your abuser. So he said that is ultimately what led to her insanity. So Cook tells the jury that this is a valid disease of the mind and that it falls under the insanity laws in Colorado. He goes back to the motive topic. He says, he reminds the jury that we will be here for 8 weeks. During that time, he says they will not hear anything about a motive because there is none. He said that all of these stories and the different versions of the story that Letecia told law enforcement and investigators, it basically shows that she was broken and therefore insane. He pointed out that what she did to Gannon was wrong and horrible, and that she did it because she was not sane. Cook also tells the jury that if they find her not guilty by reason of insanity, that she is still held accountable for what she did. She's not just going to walk out of there and go live a happily ever after life, that she will walk out of there and be committed into a hospital for treatment. Cook ends his opening statements by reminding the jury that this is a tragedy. It's terrible, but he asked them to please not form an opinion or bias. He says that this is not the time to form opinions yet. This is the time to gather evidence. He said that the opening statements are not evidence. We have 8 weeks ahead of us to consider what's actually presented as evidence. He said that if we were to decide right now, it would have to be not guilty, according to him, because at this point there has been no evidence. So I think he's really trying to make the point to the jury that this is awful. It is awful. This is hard. This has been a hard day to listen to, and it is only the opening statements. So I think that Cook is trying to kind of jump out there and acknowledge, yes, this is awful. It is terrible. But he is fighting for his client to not have the jury jump out and rush to judgments based on what she did, to listen to the evidence so that they can take into consideration whether or not she was actually sane when she did it. So with this, Cook ends his opening statement. So the day ends with the judge addressing the jury. He lets them know that nothing the attorneys have said is evidence. He reminds the jury that both attorneys on both sides are paid to persuade them. He reminds them that the prosecution must prove the guilt and the defense does not have to prove innocence. And then he goes over the basic court procedures and instructions. He lets us know that tomorrow morning and every day from here on out, kind of an idea of what the schedule will be. And then the last thing of the day is the dismissal of count 3, which is the child abuse resulting in death. It's being dismissed because this was one of the charges that came before they found the body. So that wraps it up for opening statements on day 1. So I know that today was super, super tough, and it was tough to listen to. I know that, like I said, I talked to a lot of y'all on Twitter today, and I know that it was tough for a lot of us. So we've got 8 weeks ahead of us, and I am going to continue trying to do my recap videos, but I am going to keep them kind of in this general format. It's hard to watch, and I know that a lot of people want to know what's going on without having to watch and listen to some of the hard parts. So sorry for the crying, sorry for the shaky voice, but today was, like I said, it was kind of tough. So we will try to get through the next 8 weeks together, and I will try to keep y'all informed on what's going on. And please like and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Thanks for watching.